no one has really brought that intensity and focus when it comes to business gifts more than Philip Tice. But it's not just business gifts. Those of you who've worked with Philip, just know that he's a consummate professional. He's motivated as hell. He's got a big vision for himself and the people he works with, and no one's going to outwork that guy. And so I love Philip for his intensity. I love him for his openness. I love him for his work ethic. And already for the shows that he has been able to work here with us this spring. He's already leaving a pretty big mark on it, and we're just getting started. We're just scratching the surface. So to get a chance to talk about what's really some of the things that have helped him is he's not just having big changes in his life, transitioning to a new area, which a lot of y'all can relate to. You've done, but having a lot of success and a lot of channels in the process. We wanted to carve out some time today to hear from Mr. Philip Tice. So Philip, I'm gonna shut up. They're all yours, homie.
Awesome. It's a pleasure to be able to give back to the team. When Brett asked me to speak, I was like, bro, whatever I can do to give back, I would love to be able to do that, provide value to you guys. So, currently, for those who care, I'm at the casino and I stepped out for the meeting because this is super important. And Riley's having a spa day today. So, and I am up on the day and week and month. So, so shout out to WinStar. But this year so far, I'm actually up, not in a huge way, but I've got some more momentum than I did over last year, as far as business gifts goes, and with the personal business. I'm actually up 42% year over year. I didn't hit the point that I'm at right now. I didn't hit until the middle of June last year, so I'm 3 months ahead of schedule, which is awesome. And that was kind of the point, of me moving and come from a lot of different areas, but the two main areas being around people like you, and then focusing on business gifts. I'm almost at 60K for the year on business gifts already, and I do believe almost, I think like 95% of that has been at the booth so far, because my reorders haven't started happening. They don't start happening usually until about the summertime and into the fall. And so I've sold almost 60K in business gifts at the booth this year, which is exciting. And a lot of those are samples. Some of those are the full orders. Some of that's pilot programs, a good mix of everything. But it's really exciting what's going on right now with business gifts. A lot of people ask me a lot of questions about business gifts, but I think that something I think would be very valuable to share about what's working is just to share my sales cycle and my philosophy at the booth. There's just like with residential, we start with the three sets and we laser in on where they tell us to go, and then either close it and upsell or drop down or whatever. And I think a lot of us kind of get lost in the shuffle after the first couple of hiccups. And so I'm just going to kind of share a little bit about my sales cycle at the booth and kind of go from there, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end. Um, I do want to tell you guys though that even though it's not the fall, people are buying gifts right now. A lot of mainly like the service industries who are giving out gifts year round. That could be, heating and air, roofing, concrete, flooring, could be real estate, anything that's a service that's being provided. So where there's constant turnover of clients, that could be a plethora of different things. Those are the people that I'm getting a lot of orders from right now. Okay, so if you're wondering like who's buying gifts right now, it's them. We've also got people that are buying employee gifts. Just like we have our year end banquet pretty early in the year, in the middle of January, but like Keller Williams just had theirs like 2 weeks ago, and I mean in March, or like late February. A lot of companies will do stuff about the middle of the year, because the fiscal year for a lot of companies is not necessarily the calendar year for everybody else. So make sure that when you're talking to people too about the opportunity and the scope of opportunity, you're asking, are there any events in their company like that they're holding to where there could be a gift opportunity, something to say thank you, or it could be door prizes, or it could be we could use Cutco as the awards, just like we get engraved K bars sometimes. That could be something cool, a good commemorative trophy for some of these companies. So just make sure you're asking those things. Don't be blind to those different opportunities there. But a lot of people have client appreciation events throughout the year. People want chances to get in front of people. So just a lot of different things in those areas. And then for people who don't order gifts, right now, I'm getting a lot of sample orders. and I'm having people that are actually buying their own samples because one, because I opened my mind to the fact that people are probably used to paying for their own samples in their business in general. So why would I not try to just sell them samples if I can't get something else right now? And if you noticed in the group me over the last few weeks, I'm having a lot of like, 1 and 2 and 3 piece orders that are business gifts, but it's for samples. And if there's 3 decision makers, I'm like, hey, what if we just got 3 for now? Usually as the sheet says, it says we start at 10, but I can override that personally. I can manually go in and do that. We could just do 3 to start as samples for you, Brian, and Jeff, and then we can follow up later after you guys have kind of seen them and used them, and we can talk about the actual, opportunity, to do gifts here. And people are like, wait, you can do less than 10? I'm like, yeah, of course. But I use the verbiage of, hey, I know it says 10. I can manually override that on my end, though, just to make it a sample for you. Right. And they're like, oh, yeah, let's do that. So I'm getting a lot of smaller orders like that, and it's getting the ball rolling on the bigger orders later in the year. So just keep that in mind too. And then obviously people that are doing residential orders, you can add some gifts to their order for the tax write-off and also to have samples for like the smaller things. My sales cycle is off the top, you want to start with, hey, what do you do for work? Now, this could be at an industry event or residential. Wherever you get to it, when you do get to the business gift part of the pitch, just hey, what do you do for work? Ask that every single time, no matter what, and then pitch the gifts. I'm not going to go into the script today, but pitch the gifts however you want to do that. And then once you pitch the gifts and there's some obvious interest established there, you want to then inquire about the scope of opportunity. Sometimes we get lost in, oh, how many gifts would you give? But be a little more ask, or not be more intelligent, but yes, be more intelligent. But ask more intelligent questions. Um, like, who would you give gifts to? And then if they don't, just shoot something out right off the bat, say, hey, how many clients do you guys have? Like, I'm not familiar with your business, but like, how many clients do you have that you would give a gift to like this? Like, how many people would you spend at least $100 on? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, hey, I don't need an exact number. I'm like, are we looking at like 50 or 100 or 1,000 or, oh, no, no, no. It's probably like 35. I'm like, okay, great. So that was really easy to get to really quickly because I started throwing the numbers out there, and where they might actually be at like 38, I'm throwing out like big jumps. And they're like, oh, no, 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 not 1,000. It's more like 30, 35. Okay, great. Ching. Now I've got that in my head. So I know that that's the scope side of like the client gift side. And then I would ask about employees. How many employees do you guys have? Okay, cool. I had a heating and air company I talked to this morning. Um, it was how many employees do you guys have total? How many technicians do you have? Technicians is something that you may not ask if you're not asking intelligent questions, because that's a whole nother section, because they're not usually, or sorry, they're W-2, but like they're out in the field, they're working, they're installing. Installers could be another thing you do. I'm working with a company right now that's looking at giving stuff to their fabricators, the people who are buying products from them to go do installs. They don't work for them. They actually are the customers. They're the B2B client side of things, right? And so I'm looking at, doing some gifts for them. They're looking at a pretty large order. And so there's different ways to ask about the scope of opportunity. And you want to kind of build up to see what the actual opportunity is. Like, they might only have 2 employees that they would give gifts to, but they might have 12 top clients, or they whatever. You can kind of build that order out as you go. And a lot of times the business owner, if you ask questions and get their mind going, it'll show them that it'll show them people that they've never even considered giving gifts to, that they're like, yeah, man, I probably should give them something. Like, yeah, I mean, are they important to your business? Well, of course they're important. I mean, if it were me and I were you, I mean, we're only talking like we start around $100 and kind of go up from there. I mean, I'd spend at least $100 on them for sure if they're important to the business. And they're like, yeah, man, you're right. I should start thinking about them more. And I'm like, yeah, hey, by the way, nobody's perfect, but now let me put that in my notes, and we can talk about that in a second, and then kind of go from there. Taking good notes is another good thing. Okay, so what do you do for work? pitch gifts, inquire about the scope of the opportunity. Okay, referral partners can be something else. Goes and goes. And then once you've got that scope, don't get excited. Don't go like, oh my God, they could buy 1,200 gifts from me. Go, hey, like, obviously, four. Let's say 400 is the number. Obviously, 400 people. Like, obviously, that's not a small number. Would you give a gift to all 400 of these people that was at least $100? I'm just curious. Like, is that a real thing? And they're like, well, I mean, maybe, but probably not. Probably more like our top 100. And now I've just got it from 400 to like the real number is 100. And this is very, very, very important because instead of me spending the next 5 to 10 minutes trying to close them on 400 gifts or even talk about 400 gifts and it not actually be a realistic thing that they would even make a decision on, maybe today or ever, now I've boiled it down to what's more realistic to them, something that actually could happen. And it's, the 100 gifts or whatever that number is. Okay. And so that's really, really important. This is a mistake that I made early on in pitching gifts that I learned from because I would talk to people and they'd be like, oh, we've got 80 clients that we give stuff for. Okay. Who would you give, like, who would you spend at least $100 on? Well, probably not everybody. Like 60 of those they're not really big clients, but maybe like our top 20. But I wasn't asking that question originally. So now instead of it being an 80 gift opportunity at $100 a pop, we're looking at 8 grand, and that's something I'm chasing and I'm never going to close. Now it may be a smaller scope, but it's the real scope. It's not inflated, and now I have a real chance to close them on that top 20 of their clients. Okay, I hope you guys are following me here. Um, the next part of the cycle is whatever that scope was, the realistic scope. Try to close that full order at the booth. Now you can do that in a variety of ways, but try to close that order. So if the number is 20, try to close the full 20 there at the booth. And you want to build up why they should get it today. So, hey, by the way, Houston Rodeo is our biggest event on the Gulf Coast of Texas. It's our biggest event in Houston every year, and we sponsor it. And so, if you want to wait till later, I'm totally fine with that. My time is your time. But for you, I at least want to tell you why most of our companies that work with us are getting their gift today at the Houston Rodeo. Can I tell you about that real quick? And then just whatever reason, build that up and then try to close it there. Okay. Let's say they say no to that. Don't give up. Close a pilot program. Well, hey, our minimum is people usually order 10. And the reason I say 10, where does that come from? Is that's what the business gift price sheet starts at. Starts at 10 plus. So I say, hey, by the way, if you didn't come prepared to buy 20 today, totally fine. Like we're at the rodeo or we're at the festival, whatever. And I get it. Like you didn't expect to spend 2 grand today or 3 grand or whatever the number is. But we could do this thing. It's called our pilot program. That may be more of what would make sense for you. And this is what like 99% of our clients do at the event. Can I tell you how the pilot program works real quick? Yeah, for sure. Okay, great. Well, the way the pilot program works is obviously you came here, you don't have like your big list of everybody you want to give a gift to. You probably weren't even thinking about this till you ran into me, which is totally fine. That's usually what happens. So what the company lets us do at an event like this, it's called our pilot program. We can order if you get at least 10 items for gifts. All we need today is, hey, I want 10 of blank, or it could be like 5 and 5 if you're looking at a couple things. But as long as we get 10 today, you say, hey, I want this many of this. I need the first payment because we split over 6 months if you want. I just need the first payment today, and I just need your address, your email. And what's going to happen is we'll get the order started here at the booth. We don't have to make all the decisions right now. Okay. You can email me your logo later. You probably don't have it on you right now. You can email it to me in a few days whenever you get ready. I'll reach out to you about that. And then if you want to change your mind on the color or something, we can do that too. And I'm going to send you a proof before we engrave anything anyway. So really all we need to do today is just get it started and just get 10 to get the order, like get the process started. And then we can worry about the details later. And they're like, Okay, so you just need like an initial payment today, and like, hey, I just want like 10 of those. I'm like, yeah, that's it. So if you were to get the pilot program today, what would you get? Would you get like 10 of these or 10 of those, or would you like to do like 5 and 5 maybe? Just has to equal 10 total. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So we can do that now. It's only this much today. Boom. Usually that closes them. It makes it really easy. Okay. People are not wanting to make decisions at the booth. That's why you heard me really like dive in on, hey, you don't have to decide everything today. We just need to get the order started. We'll figure out the rest later. And they're like, okay, cool, great. Yeah, let me just get it started, and we'll reach out to you in a couple of days. I'm really busy. A lot going on. I'm at the rodeo. I'm at the show. I'm doing a lot of stuff. Okay. Let's say that doesn't work. The next step is go, hey, well, like, I'm just curious. I know I said 10 because that's kind of what the sheet says. That's what they want us to do. I'm just curious, like, if you were to start, like, would you even be comfortable starting with 10? Or would you be like, is there a smaller number you wish you could start with? Like, if we can start you out with like 5, like, if I was able to make that happen, is that something that you'd be more open to here at the show? And usually they're like, yeah, like 10's just a lot to start with. I'd probably start with 5, and then you said we could order more later, right? And I'm like, yeah, and I'll just honor the quantity at 10, but we'll just give you 5 here at the show just to get you started. And then, like I said, we can always order more later. And they're like, yeah, let's just do that. Then if they don't do that, I go, hey, before you guys run off, I have a program. Again, it's another program. I have a program for you where if you really want, like, you're probably going to do this, but you need some time to think about it, consider it. Maybe you want to talk to your partner, like you said earlier. If you want, I can let you as a one-off, just order one as a sample, just to get you guys in our system and get it engraved and get it to you. That way you can really hold it, look at it, and see what it looks like. And if there's anybody else you want to show it to, you can do that. And then when you're ready to order later, it's as easy as, hey, I need this many of that, because you're already be set up in our system. We already have your account created. So would you want to just buy one as a sample today, just to kind of try it out and see how it goes? Okay, great. Close them on that. And then if they don't want to get that, but you still feel like it's a good opportunity for them to buy something later, then you should offer to either buy them a sample. I like to just offer it, because if they say yes, they want a sample, then they're interested, or at least in my eyes, they are. If they say no, 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 you don't have to do that, then they're just too nice to say no. In my eyes, that's how I like to run it. And like Rob doesn't like to do it that way. He likes to ask for the logo, and if they send the logo, then he'll make a sample. If it's a certain amount of opportunity, and you know he likes to surprise them with the samples. That's totally up to you and what you want to do. It's a nuance. But I like to ask them, hey, like, obviously we've had a great time today talking. I really think this is going to be something that helps your business out. I would love, if you'll let me, I would love to make an investment in your business and buy a sample for you guys. Because like I said, I know you guys are going to love it. We just got to get a sample, made for you. So if you guys are okay with it, can I buy you guys a sample and make that investment in our relationship, and I'll have it shipped right to your office or home. That way you guys got something to look at, and it's easier for you guys to make a decision on for later. Is that something I could do for you guys today? And if they say yes to that, they're probably interested. Like, they're probably going to end up buying eventually, anyways. If they say no, they just qualify themselves out 99% of the time. Sometimes there's people that it's not perfect and they could still order from you later. But usually by that point, like, you can kind of tell who is and isn't interested. Okay. Now, no matter what happens in this process, you want to go ahead and have some type of idea on when you're going to have a follow-up meeting. So if I sell somebody a pilot program order for 5 or 10 gifts, I go ahead and say, hey, when would you guys be ready, you think, to order the rest of the gifts? Is this something like, hey, call me next week, next month, or like maybe middle of summer or early fall? What time frame are you guys working on to give the rest of the gifts? Okay, great. Put that in my notes. Now, since it's only 2 weeks out, can we go ahead and schedule a meeting? That way I've got it in my calendar, because I'm sure you're super busy, and I'm definitely super busy. So I just want to pick a day, and then I'll email you with a time, and we'll get that all booked up. Okay, great. If it's super far out, then just put like a week in your schedule to call them, or schedule a follow up time to call them, to schedule a meeting. Or if it's on like, hey, call me around, September, October, that's fine too. You want to go ahead and put it in your calendar and or your CRM to follow up with them on X date. Like put that in your calendar so you remember to call them to schedule the meeting, right? And then you want to set communication expectations. So if they order, say, hey, I'm going to reach out to you guys here in the next 2 days or over the weekend or sometime early next week. If I don't have the logo from you, I'll reach out to you and we'll get that. Okay. And then we'll get everything set up and get approved to you. Okay. If they didn't buy anything from you, go ahead and set the expectation for when you'll be reaching out to set up a meeting or whatever the next step is in the process. Okay. And then the last thing is always, always, always ask, hey, obviously you're super, super busy, and so am I. So, what if I needed to get in touch with you? What is the best way to get a response from you? Are you more of a texter? Do you like for me to call? Is email better? What's the best? Because I like when people text me because I get back to them faster. Okay, great. And then put that in your notes as well, guys. I just had a guy that I've been reaching out to for 3 weeks who was like 5-star lead, really wanted me to follow up like 3 days after I talked to him. And it was initial email, second email, phone call, called his buddy who didn't answer, sent him a text, and then sent him another text yesterday morning, and finally got a response from him. And it's looking like we're moving the sticks on the order. But if I just had texted them earlier in the cycle, I would have gotten in touch with him earlier. Because then he then told me yesterday morning, hey, by the way, like I saw your email, but this is like for sure just text me because that's the best way to get in touch with me. Like, great, that would have been great to know earlier. All right, my mouth's running dry, so I'm going to open it up for some Q&A.
First off, that was fire. I've got one or two things, but does anyone have a question they want to throw out to Philip?
I have a question.
Hit it, mama.
I would assume, Philip, obviously that was like a lot of information all at once, and that drop down is just awesome. I love that you're teaching this to people because I do what you're doing. My question though is that was a lot of jargon and a lot of communication, and a lot of business owners are not going to stand at the booth as long as a residential customer might when we're trying to sell a package or a set of knives. Most business owners are like, get to the point. So if you could take everything in your drop down and just bullet point list it for those of us that are list people, what would you say that bullet point list looks like?
All right, you got it. Initial pitch,
Okay.
inquire about the scope. Who would you spend at least $100 on? Close the full scope of the order. Pilot program. Half pilot program.
Hold on. So then pilot program, I'm putting this in the chat.
Yep.
Pilot program.
I'll post this in the group me. And then half pilot program.
Okay.
Sell them a sample. You buy them a sample or offer to buy them a sample.
Okay.
And that's the bottom of the funnel.
Love it. I just wanted like an outline because that was beautiful. It was awesome. But just to like, if people are putting it in their notes, like I want to see how the funnel goes down and people can kind of do it in their own way, in their own framework. Because I know you don't, I've worked with you. I know you don't spend that long with people. You get to the point very quickly. So I was just curious about that.
Yep, for sure.
Love that.
Yep.
Love that.
So
let's see.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it, Jeff.
So Philip, when you get do you try to get the logo right then at that point? You set up an appointment to get it from somebody else, like a PDF, or you just pull it off their website? How's that's the kind of bottleneck that I have sometimes is people like it, but then getting that logo to move forward, whether any of those steps. How
Right,
do you?
right there on the spot, I ask them, hey, could you send me your logo real quick? Do you have it on your phone or anything? If they say no, I say, hey, don't worry about it. I'll email you here in a couple days to get it. This is if they've ordered from me. Now, if they haven't ordered, one of the like a litmus test that Rob likes to use, and I use it sometimes as well myself, is like asking them to send you the logo, and if they actually do it, like they're not going to send you their logo over email if they're not interested. You know, so that's also like there's a little bit of work involved for the client that you kind of want, because if they do that little bit of work, then they're actually interested. And I just like to send an email. I have a golden rule I left out of here actually. I have a golden rule that I implemented last year after losing 2 orders to other reps is within 72 hours start the paper trail and send the initial email. No matter what, within 72 hours.
I got a question.
Hit it, Maddie.
So you talked about buying samples, and I love the idea of that, especially for people who are qualified. And I'm sure other people's brains work this way as well. What are some boxes that a business owner needs to check in order for you to be like, okay, this is somebody that's worth buying a sample for?
I'll be honest with you, man. It's not really a box thing for me. It's hey, if I stay in touch and you end up thinking this is a great idea, is this something that realistically you guys would be open to doing for your company? Because I obviously I talk to people every day who get excited about it. I'm just curious, is this something you guys are actually considering doing? I just point blank ask people. I'm too busy to chase people around, right? And the reason I say it like that, and I wish I had a checklist for you, but I don't, is because as salespeople, we can kind of tell who's bullshitting us and who's not. And if I can't tell that they're quality prospects or they haven't bought from me, then I need to just ask the question like, hey, is this something? Because obviously, like, I'm busy, you're busy. I don't want to waste either of our time because I will follow up with you and I will stay in touch. And I just don't want it to go like, 4, 5, 6 months and you weren't really interested in the first place. So just be honest with me. Is this something you guys are actually thinking about doing? Okay, great. And that's for the people that you can't tell.
I am also a big fan of samples. Some of my best and biggest customers were ones that, I just showed, this, I'm a business owner and I don't mind talking that, like you're talking on that level with them where it's like, hey, look, I'm not afraid to earn your business. It seems like something you're really interested in. And I'd love to get a chance to follow up with you on it. I'll tell you what, if I go ahead and do this for you, if I just buy one for you, your logo's on file, let me do some legwork. I'll put some skin in the game. Can you commit to me that, we'll be able to connect and give me a yes or no when the time is right? Like I don't mind just kind of like Philip said, just sort of laying it out like that. They're fine being talked to like that. And I literally say that. And they always respond positive when I say, hey, look, I'll put some skin in the game. Let me pay to digitize your logo. Let me buy you a knife. Let me ship this stuff to you. I want some skin in the game. And all I'd ask is, hey, it's yours. Worst case, you get a hell of a good gift from me. Your knife guy. You're stuck with me. But you guys think we can connect? You give me a yes or no once we figure out the time is right. And so that kind of thing has worked really well for me. Any other questions for Philip? I've got 1 or 2 thoughts I'm going to throw out, but Brett.
I have 72 questions. Bill, stop talking.
By the way,
I'm on
and
live
Philip
camera.
has
Being recorded.
74 answers to your 72 questions.
Philip, first question. Why do you look so beautiful? You're like literally glowing. Okay,
It's
don't
that
answer
oxygen
that.
they're pumping in the casino, bro. Makes my
That's
skin
it.
look.
You're like, how can I go in and win more money? First of all, we had a casino night last night. I won $3 million. I beat Curtis, even though he had more fun than anyone. Serious question. I know sometimes there's not a lot of time, especially with business owners. how do you capture their information, or how do you use, or do you use a a walk around think about it sheet, or like one of those books that has all that stuff, or a stall pad, like to capture how many gifts, how what their information is, like all that stuff?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm using the feedback pad, like just to jot down some quick notes. If a business owner walks up and I'm talking to them at the booth, 100% of the time, whether I write it down on a feedback pad or not, 100% of the time, all of my leads go into my iPad on a Google form. 100% of the time. Now, I've found that that's the only way I can guarantee I don't lose their information for later down the road.
So you're saying buy an iPad? Okay, got
You can do the Google form on your phone, but I've had several times where I've had good conversations and I wrote it down on a pad and it just got lost, which is the worst feeling ever. And so I still do use my little notepad, but I always enter them in my iPad. And most of the time I just have the iPad out anyways, and that's where I'm taking the notes.
Nice. I love it. All right. So, two things that I wanted to throw out just as a piggyback, and y'all aren't here to hear from me, but I'm off to a solid start for the year with business gifts as well. Obviously, something I'm excited about. 52,000 of my 95,000 for the year so far is business gift orders, and a little CGC in there too. So it's definitely moving the needle for me as well. One of the things that Philip hit in there though that I think is just I think it's so underrated is like he gives such a specific number with that $100 figure. And the reality is like that just, hey, who would you spend $100 on? And for me, I have kind of done that same dance. And don't get me wrong, our targets might be 7-inch Santokus, our targets might be 2-piece sets, things like that. But just to get a buy-in and keeping it simple, being able to say who in there is worth investing $100 in a relationship. And by the way, I shrug and go, man, I'll take some of my top people on my team out for sushi and spend $130 for the two of us. And I just sort of throw that out there. I'll go, oh, I'll go get a couple drinks with one of the guys on my team and spend $95. Who in your sphere or circle is worth, $100 as maybe a starting point. And when you throw it like that, and I love giving one or two very specific examples of what I've done. And it's not like some big flex, like, oh, I took them on a trip. Like that's like legacy gift type stuff. But literally just being like, oh yeah, I got sushi with Matt Foss and spent $130. I mean, like, he's one of our top guys. Who in your sphere, would you invest $100 in the relationship just for them to feel appreciated and special? And then from there, once they're, because that's such a low barrier of entry, honestly. Like when you actually think about business owners, $100 is nothing, guys. It's literally nothing. On the way back, like we were gonna go see Brett last night. Me and Curtis stopped at Buc-ee's, and we're like, "What would Brett want?" And we're like, "I don't know, jerky." We're like, "What jerky would Brett want?" I'm like, "I don't know, all of them." So I bought like $140 of snacks at Buc-ee's. All right, and I didn't even really think much more about it than that. I just piled them up and was like, "How much do I love Brett? A shitload more than $140 worth of jerky. I'll tell you that much." So like that kind of move. See, there you go. He's got the pretzels right now. But my point is, again, it's not self-aggrandizing, but that is a very easy number for them to wrap their head around. You think any like successful business professional hasn't spent $100 on their personal assistant or secretary, like catering them lunch or giving them a gift card to go out to eat? Like that is such a non-threatening number. And I think sometimes we get lost in the weeds of the big things instead of just saying, hey, who would you invest $100 in the relationship, whether it's a customer, a vendor, an employee, a business partner, just to make a strong impression. And then, one of the lines that y'all have heard me say that I love to do a lot is just, hey, gratitude should never be seasonal. And so even when I've had people, when I've talked about gifts this spring, and they're like, oh yeah, you should talk to me in November. And I go, hey, I'd love to talk to you in November. If you're serious, great, we'll connect. I'll put it on the calendar. We'll get it done. But can I share with you what a lot of our business owners have found to be a best practice when it comes to like gifting and making that strong impression with your brand and your relationships? And they're like, sure, why not? And I just go, gratitude should never be seasonal. Okay. And I go, so you can wait till Christmas if you want, but you also could give something now and get the next 10 months of positive impression and good juju and just connection to you and your company and your brand and your mission and who you are and what you do and what you represent to them. Or you can wait till Christmas. Now, the reality is I've been here 21 years. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be just as happy to do business with you in December as I am in March. But I've just found a lot of our business owners, why wait? Why wait? You know, I mean, if it's a budget thing, I get that. I totally respect that. We all have budgets we have to follow and respect. But if it's not really a budget thing, but it's just you do Christmas because everyone does Christmas, don't be everyone. Gratitude should never be seasonal. And then I give an example of a company or two that just gives their gifts this time of year. And if nothing else, it creates open-mindedness. And that's our best case scenario. It's just creating open-mindedness. Doesn't mean they're going to do it, but all of a sudden they think about it in a different way. And sometimes they'll consider it just a little bit more. Last thing I just want to throw out where Philip mentioned about just getting something on the spot, dropping down if you have to. I've had ones where it's just I've literally kind of gotten them where they're like, oh, I don't know the number. We need 30, we need 50, we need 1 million. And I'm like, cool, what's the minimum? And they're like, I don't know, it'd be at least 20 or at least 10. And I've had some success where I've literally said, hey, cool, just to lock in your discount, why don't we just put the order in for 10? I'm going to follow up with you next week. We'll get the real number once you work on your list. Hey, by the way, worst case scenario, you get swamped and you don't get back to me in time. I'll just put the 10 through. So that way, like you're locked in and everything's in the system. We'll just add to it later, but I'll follow up with you. You give me the real number, but worst case, I'll just put it through for 10 if I don't hear from you. And they're like, okay, sure. And it's just like, because then one of the hard parts with follow-up is just pinning people down. We all know that. That's where we get frustrated. That's where a lot of us give up on follow-up, is because it's hard to actually pin them down. So I've had 2 orders this spring that I did that. And one I had to go all the way down to 5 pieces. But one they were like, I think we want 50, but it'll be at least 20. I was like, great. I'll hit you up next week. You'll give me the number. It'll be 47. It'll be 39. It'll be 53. But we know 20 is the baseline, get you your discount, get you in the system. So look, worst case scenario, if I don't hear from you, I'll just put the 20 in. But I know we'll talk before then. But if I don't, because you get crazy busy, not to worry, I'll get the 20 in and we'll get started with that. We'll just add the rest when you're ready. And so I've had 2 orders go through this spring doing that I had some success with. I love Philip's process. I love his drop down. But I think a key thing, and it was so good for me to hear this to get top of mind again, was that $100 number. Because I heard him say that at the fair, and I've used it a lot throughout the fall and spring, but that was a really good reminder for me. And so that was money. That was awesome. Philip, you're a king. You're a king. You're a casino king. Thank you for joining us, man. Thank you for being a part of our team.